it's estimated that we're 10 to 12 years behind. So South Korea are 10 to 12 years ahead of the rest of the world when it comes to beauty and innovation and things like that. And an example is PDRN, so the salmon sperm facial that went viral. That really came to the UK and kicked off last year.
Exactly.
But it was launched in Korea for cosmetic use in 2014. So they've been doing it for 10 years before we even thought about doing it.
So welcome to the Late Aesthetics Show, where we blend culture, confidence and cutting-edge beauty. I'm your host, Vanessa Brown, and today's guest is someone redefining radiant skin with a powerful mix of heritage and science. So welcome, Dr. Christine Hall, to the show. You're a brilliant aesthetics doctor and pharmacist based in Knightsbridge, and we're really going to delve into your Korean heritage and your deep-rooted passion for skin and all things aesthetics. So in this episode, we're really going to unpack Korean skincare culture, which is booming at the minute, aesthetic confidence, and also how to glow up without giving into filters and fads. So your skin is glowing. I'm not surprised whatsoever. So talk me through what's currently in your skincare routine.
Okay, so I'm quite fixed with my skincare routine now. I did suffer quite a lot with acne before, and it took me quite a few years to find something that suited me. So I have a hypochlorous solution spray.
Okay.
Something called Clinisoothe.
Yes.
I follow that up with a vitamin C that is designed for oily skin. So I use the SkinCeuticals Silimarin CF.
Okay.
I keep it quite simple, actually. Then I am currently using a new gel-type moisturiser called Belif. It's a new Korean one, which I'm loving. And obviously an SPF. So that's my morning. And then evenings, I keep it really quite simple. Try to include a tretinoin in.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, the more straightforward, I think sometimes the better. You want to, I always believe you need a skincare routine that is like hitting all the points that you need to hit. Don't overcomplicate it. Make sure you're using things that are actually going to work on the skin.
Exactly. And I think during the pandemic and lockdown, everybody was experimenting on their skin. They had nothing to do. We were all online. We bought loads and loads of different things. We overcomplicated it and everyone got red, inflamed skin. So, yeah, it just proves the point. Really.
100%. So you have a Korean background, but you were brought up in the Western culture. What about kind of your upbringing influenced the way that you do your current skincare routine? Is there anything about your upbringing? Because obviously being half Korean is wonderful. There's so much happening in Korea at the moment, and I'm sure you keep up to date with everything that's happening there. But how did that influence like your upbringing when it came to skincare routine?
Yeah, so I feel really lucky. So my dad is English, my mum is from Seoul. And so, as you say, I had kind of the best of both worlds. I was brought up, I would say, more in a Korean household, even though I was living in the UK. We would spend summers in Korea, and I was kind of brought up surrounded by skincare because that is culture in Korea. I would sit in front of the TV with my grandmother, my mother, all my aunties, and everybody would be like patting all these various different lotions.
How old would you be at that age?
Oh, as young as I can remember. I mean, I can remember doing things when I was like 10 and just being allowed a little bit of my grandma's essence. So it wasn't that I was doing it at that age, but I was kind of surrounded by it. They have all of these different kind of rituals that they incorporate into their skincare, and they have little words for it. So tapping your skincare into the skin, they believe, and they call it tok tok because of the sound it makes. It helps the absorption. You don't waste as much as if you were to rub it around the skin.
Oh, wow.
It improves blood flow to the skin surface. So they have all these little things that there is kind of method behind it. But also it is something that you are kind of brought up to enjoy and be proud of. It's not something that is seen as like a
taboo. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, because I can even remember, so I started a skincare routine, luckily, from my mum's from Russia. So I started a skincare routine probably from the age about 13, 14, so definitely going into my teenage years. But there were so many of my friends that were using products that would, let's say, just completely strip your skin. Whereas my mum was all about sort of like use some natural skincare, preserve. Obviously, you don't want to strip your skin at that age, but it was encouraged. Whereas I think sometimes in the UK it is discouraged, and there's a lot of, young girls, teenagers using things like micellar water, and then that cleanses their whole skin. But really, it's not giving their skin what they need. So it's brilliant to see different cultures embracing it, because I think we can take a lot from that, definitely. Yeah. Do you now, obviously, growing up with that, a lot of your ethos from when you were younger, is that now present in your clinical work? And do you talk to patients about things as well, that, you can give them tips to use at home?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think, so Korean skincare is grounded in the skin barrier and nurturing the skin barrier. It's only quite recently that Korean skincare has really broken into the actives like retinols and vitamin C's, and that's because the two, East and West, are kind of colliding in the middle, and we are doing more about the skin barrier now, and they're doing a little bit more about actives, but ultimately they are grounded in hydrating, nourishing the skin barrier. If your skin goes red, that's not good for you, whereas here we're like, oh, skin's red and peeling, it must be doing something, let's carry on. But ultimately, everything in skincare has a place. So yes, if you're young and you have acne, then these kind of nice nourishing ingredients aren't necessarily going to be the thing that you need. So it's about what suits your skincare at that time, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you see, obviously in the UK, the 4 common skin conditions which we see regularly is like rosacea, acne, pigmentation, and then aging. Is that the same in Korea? Or is there different concerns in Korea with skincare or with skin problems?
It's not too dissimilar, but I think what they are very good at doing in Korea is getting on top of it and recognising it. So people in the UK will have a skincare problem and perhaps not seek help from their GP or their doctor for a long time. So you don't see it outwardly as much, but it's not to say that they don't suffer with those conditions. They are just better able to manage them.
Yeah. So you'll see obviously on TikTok and whatnot, there's a lot of Korean trends that are obviously trending. Do you think that there's anything that the Western world doesn't understand about Korean skincare just yet? Because you're right, it is new to the Western world, but it's obviously been happening for decades over in Korea. Is there anything that we still don't understand?
I think, it's estimated that we're 10 to 12 years behind. So South Korea are 10 to 12 years ahead of the rest of the world when it comes to beauty and innovation and things like that. And an example is PDRN, so the salmon sperm facial that went viral. That really came to the UK and kicked off last year.
Exactly.
But it was launched in Korea for cosmetic use in 2014. So they've been doing it for 10 years before we even thought about doing it. So they've got all of these different ingredients that we perhaps don't know as much about. And we can learn about things like the PDRN, the polynucleotides in kind of topical form and things like that now. So that's there. But it works both ways because they've also done things that haven't worked out. So in a way, it's good that we're a bit behind because we can learn also from their mistakes and when things don't work.
Well, we should just probably look at what they're doing, because what they're doing now probably will start doing it in the UK in 5 years' time.
Yeah.
Obviously, things like exosomes are big in the UK at the moment. And again, that's only really been over the last 12 months or so. Mm-hmm. Has that been present in Korea for quite some time as well?
So exosomes have been around for years in Korea. And when I was saying before about, we can learn from things that haven't gone so well, they were once using human-derived exosomes and they're now illegal in the UK because we're not sure about their safety and things. But yes, they've been doing it for years. We are, just about starting and learning. And
do they still use human-derived exosomes in Korea then? Or is it a little bit...
I'm not sure.
Okay.
They may be, but it's not something that is
publicised
on positively anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So you obviously gave your fantastic skincare routine, which is quite straightforward, effective, and to the point.
Yeah.
There is a famous trend, which is the 10-step, Korean skincare routine. That sounds like it will take quite a lot of time.
Yeah.
Do you think that is necessary? And what's actually included in that type of routine?
So this is really interesting because I remember when that came out, and it was quite a few years ago, I remember saying to my mum about it. She said, I don't know what you're talking about. And I remember thinking, I thought she knew about skincare, but it turns out that it was actually a marketing term used by an American team to try and get people to buy 10 steps because it was such a new area and people didn't know what they were doing. So they were like, you need to buy the 10-step routine. People were buying 10 products.
Yeah.
In all honesty, probably too much. I can't think of, especially now we're seeing more and more hybrid products, so active ingredients all being incorporated into one product. It's not necessary, it's expensive.
Time consuming as well.
Actually, I think in Korea, the average number of products a person uses is 7.
Oh, really?
That's still quite a lot.
And what would you typically find in a Korean skincare routine?
So they will usually always double cleanse. So your oil-based cleanser followed by a foaming cleanser of some description. Then a toner, so a very watery product, followed by an essence, which is kind of in between a toner and a
serum.
Yeah. Then your serum.
Yep.
Then a moisturizer, possibly an eye cream, and SPF.
Okay. So they're big on SPF as well?
Oh, they're huge on SPF.
Again, the education for SPF in the UK is only really, really took off, I would say maybe the last 5 or 6 years. But that's maybe why they have such great skin.
I think
because they're protected. And it's warm as well. You obviously get hot summers and whatnot.
It's very hot. My family, when you go to Korea and the sun is out, they will have the biggest hats on and they will be looking for the shade. Everything is covered.
Yep.
And it's a bit sad because actually they are educated about the risks of the sun and things, but it's slightly more deep-rooted because historically they believed that the darker your skin tone, it meant that you worked the land, and if you worked on the land, then you weren't from as well off a family. So that's how it sort of began. And that's changed now, of course. People don't have that belief, but it wasn't that they were kind of better educated about the health concerns. They were doing it for other reasons. But it does mean that they have honestly some of the most incredible SPFs.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
And are they available in the UK?
They are now.
Really?
Yeah.
Is there any specific ones that you would recommend to any of the listeners?
So it's interesting. So Beauty of Joseon.
Okay.
And Skin 1004.
Okay.
Interestingly, they're both brands that you don't see much in Korea, but they're Korean brands that they decided to push outside of the Korean market.
Okay.
So they're very big over here. CosRx, they do an aloe-based one. They do lots of SPF sticks.
Yeah, SPF sticks, I have seen them in Asia, but I've not necessarily seen them really take off in the UK as much.
Yeah.
What makes their SPF so unique then? What makes them so good?
First of all, they're going to be very high protection, broad spectrum. So they're doing what their primary intention is to do. But on top of that, you'll then get different ones. So you'll get a tone-up SPF, for example, which gives you a bit of a glow.
Yeah.
And it's meant to brighten your skin.
Yeah.
SPFs that make your skin kind of look glowing but not greasy. They're getting much, much better at creating SPFs that don't give a cast to your skin.
Exactly, because this is always the issue, and I think this is why people are put off, I think, a lot of the time by wearing SPF, because they don't want that thick white residue on their skin. It feels, too thick. You don't want that.
Yeah.
And so I think if you find an SPF that's actually really comfortable, I do genuinely think that'll encourage a lot more people to just make sure that it is a crucial part of their routine.
So they are very lightweight.
Yeah.
The majority of them, they're very nice. It's interesting. So in South Korea, there is a production company called Kolmar.
Okay.
And they make the base of many SPFs, not all of them. They make the base, and then companies come in and they tweak that base slightly to make it brand specific to them. So a lot of them will all originate from this Kolmar place.
Oh, nice.
Factory, let's call it.
Yeah.
Short to call it. But you know what I'm saying.
Where they produce it. Yeah.
And so they're all variations of this incredible base that
Wow.
they've made. So yeah, they're you have to try one.
And I was just going to say, because I do like to try different SPFs, and then when I find one, I stick to it for quite a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm always up for trying new things for sure.
And I think the sticks are popular because they are something. So you wouldn't put a stick on in the morning as your primary thing. That's for top ups during the day.
Brilliant.
So and they go over makeup quite well as well. So
That's really, really good. Are there any skincare habits that you picked up when you were growing up? You've obviously mentioned the essence that was a big part of kind of playtime with skincare as a a child. Is there anything that you still use today?
Product wise, I mean, sometimes I'll use an essence if my skin is very dry. Otherwise, I generally don't use an essence. It's more about routine and how I do it. So actually, as soon as my day's over and I get home, the face comes off.
Yeah.
And I'm into my skincare. Just because you feel like it's doing something good for your skin, the whole tok, the tapping.
So do you tap all your serums into the skin then?
Unless I'm in a hurry. If I'm in a hurry, it's just a...
Yeah. Get it on there. So tap in. And so you say you double cleanse as well.
Yeah.
So do you use a specific type of like cloth or anything to take off?
I don't use a cloth actually, but so I use an oil-based balm. So one of my favourites is something called Hamish.
Okay.
The idea of that, it gets rid of the oil-soluble things. So things like your SPF, lots of different types of makeup, which wouldn't be removed particularly well if you didn't double cleanse. And then obviously because I have quite oily, greasy skin to start with and I'm acne prone, then following it up with that foaming cleanser gets rid of the oil cleanser as well as all of the water-based stuff. So you're getting rid of all of the kind of gunk and grime from the day, basically.
And you need it in London as well. You definitely.
Need it in London,
sometimes when you've been walking out and about, you can't wait to just get home and just literally wash your face and wash yourself as well. Okay, so we're going to play a little game called Hot or Not, and I'll name basically a viral Korean trend, and then you'll tell me if it's worth it or is it just complete hype. Okay. So, glass skin. Do you think it's glowing or greasy?
It's a fine line. Glowing.
Okay, perfect. Skin icing, do you think it's genius or a gimmick?
I don't do it, put it that way. It has its place. I think if you've got swelling, allergies, things like that, ice is good. I probably wouldn't waste your
time doing it. Yeah, I mean, I've seen them obviously. With the bowls, for example, and it's obviously all the ice in there. I mean, there might be some benefit.
There might be.
So essences, do you think they're essential or overhyped?
Not essential. They have their place. So if when your skin is wet or damp, it absorbs more. So putting a layer of essence on will mean that whatever you put on afterwards will be better absorbed. So if your skin's very dry,
then
give it a go.
Or even the winter months, for example.
Probably
like
not
that.
in summer.
Yeah. There's a big buzz around Korean baby Botox, which has kind of taken off slightly in the UK, and cherry lips. Do you think that we'll see these types of trends continuing in the UK as well?
I mean, they already are.
Yeah.
People are already talking about them and saying things. It's interesting in Korea, so baby Botox is already very popular in the UK. One of the big things in Korea is actually something called Microtox. So it's using Botox in an even different kind of way. It is often credited for giving people glass skin, and it's one of the most popular treatments that they do in Korea. And it's multiple injections all over the face in the very outermost layer of the skin. So it's very different.
So kind of like you're doing like mesotherapy or something like that.
Like mesotherapy, but with Botox. The idea is that you have muscle, fat, and then skin as the layers in your face. Traditional Botox, you're targeting deep into that muscle to reduce the movement of that muscle. With Microtox, you are targeting these little branches or fibres that go from the top of the muscle through the fat into the skin. And the idea is that you soften those fibres so that the skin almost moves over the muscle like a sheet of glass. So you look flawless, poreless. It can help with redness. And it can help with oiliness because you are targeting the layer of the skin where you have your pores and your blood vessels and things like that.
Would that not lead to things like for example, your pores maybe wouldn't be able to breathe properly? Does that not lead to that? Or
no, because it doesn't get rid of them completely. It doesn't do anything like that.
Yeah.
It's not a treatment for everybody though. So if you are already suffering with dry skin,
not for you.
Not the treatment for you. Think of other things like skin boosters, which I should add when you say my skin is glowing and I have a simple routine. I work in an aesthetic.
Yeah, so you do. I know we're going to get into that. Yeah, we'll get into that exactly. So you do. Yeah, of course we all do these types of things as well. So it's not just your at-home routine, but your at-home routine is crucial because you're doing it every single day. Exactly. So you're both a doctor and a pharmacist. How does that influence the way you select certain products or design skincare routines for your patients?
So I think the pharmacy side of things, I was very lucky. I worked for a short time in the St John's Institute of Dermatology at St Thomas's Hospital. So I got to see the kind of formulation side of it, learnt lots about the ingredients, what's good, what isn't, the potential problems. And then obviously being a doctor, I got to see the conditions. So I do feel very lucky that I'm able to kind of pair the two together and understand why one isn't necessarily good for the other and so on. So I have to say I've forgotten a lot of the pharmacy side.
I think it's like anything, unless you're literally doing that day in, day out, you naturally as human beings, we will forget that. And but what we learn, we can't unlearn. So I'm sure if you tapped into it one day, it'll be there somewhere. Yeah, exactly. Obviously, when you speak to patients, they see so much information online, and there's a lot of misinformation online. How do you, and I always say, look, if you're going to see an aesthetic doctor, take their word for it. At the end of the day, they're the specialist. Don't listen to a trend, speak to that doctor and they'll advise you. How do you navigate that? Let's say if you had a patient come in, they've seen something online, and they say, I'm adamant that I really want to do that. How do you navigate that in a way to educate them that it may not be the best thing for them?
So I think it is all about having that conversation. So quite often people will come in and they'll sit down, we'll go through a quick medical history just so that I know everything that we're talking about, and then I will say to them, how can we help? And they will say, oh, I've read about fillers and I think I need them, or I've read about polynucleotides.
Yeah.
And probably 8 times out of 10, that's not the treatment that they need.
Yeah.
More often than not, I will tell them that I don't think that they need a treatment at all. Yeah. People are coming in younger and younger. I have to say that's not the bulk of our patients, but a lot of people are reading about these things, think they need them, and actually they don't.
Yeah.
It's like preventative Botox. There is a group of people that believe in it. I don't personally. That's entirely, and that's where it comes to choosing your doctor, because it has to work.
Exactly. Yeah.
But most of the time, if you speak to a patient and you explain to them, filler is really for lost volume. It's something that works better when you're kind of 40 onwards, because that's when you'll start to notice lost volume. I mean, it has other places, of course.
Yeah, of course.
They understand and they realise, and sometimes I'll say to them, actually, this might be better for you.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the reason why. And, it's as you say, it's about educating people and then letting them make that decision.
And when, let's say, somebody comes to you for, let's say, general anti-aging, how much emphasis do you place on that at-home skincare routine? Because I've seen practitioners over the years, for example, if someone wants to come in for toxin, they'll come in for toxin and they might not even mention the skincare side of things because they think it's too long, this, that their time's best spent elsewhere. So how much emphasis do you actually place on making sure that they leave with a decent skincare routine?
So actually, I put a lot of emphasis on them, and I will say to people, you're coming into this clinic, you are obviously prepared to spend hundreds of pounds on a treatment to make you look younger.
Yeah.
You need to be doing what you can at home to support this, because your skincare will make a really big difference and will be the cheapest thing you can do. Yeah. I will always emphasize SPF. Yeah. I will always say to people, 80 to 90% of all of the visible signs of aging are due to SPF, and there's a couple of viral pictures that went round.
Yes.
And I always have them on my desktop.
Yeah.
I have a few different SPFs that we don't actually stock in the clinic, but I like to be able to show people what they're like. So SPF is my first non-negotiable. I'll have a chat to them then about vitamin C and retinoids.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 that I say to people, you're obviously here because you're concerned about the signs of aging. Yeah. These are the 3 ingredients. Yeah. Let's get you on them.
There's a big thing about vitamin C. Obviously, if you go... if you go to the high street like Boots or Superdrug, for example, they'll say that it's a vitamin C serum. Yeah. But am I right in thinking that the only active form of vitamin C is L-ascorbic acid, and your body can only absorb that at a certain percentage as well? Because sometimes it's like 15% of vitamin C that they say a serum is, 20%, 30% of vitamin C. But is there only a certain amount of vitamin C that your skin can actually absorb?
So, so vitamin C is a really, really difficult ingredient to formulate. It has to be within a certain pH for your body to absorb it. L-ascorbic acid is the active and most potent form of vitamin C. That doesn't mean that other forms don't work.
Okay.
In fact, for some people with sensitive skin, for example, other forms of vitamin C might be better.
Okay.
It's usually in a dark bottle because it is broken down by light.
Yeah, so it oxidizes.
Yeah, exactly. It's a difficult ingredient to formulate. In terms of percentages, you need to be looking for something between 8 and 15%.
Yeah.
Anything less probably won't do very much. Anything more has been shown to give you side effects but no additional benefit.
Okay.
In terms of using it, if you apply each morning, then it builds up a reservoir in the skin.
Okay.
So your skin is able to store it. But yes, you're right. You will reach a point where you've saturated it.
Really, with vitamin C, you should be looking for something that has L-ascorbic acid in, or would you be okay with a different form depending on your skin type?
Yeah, you'd be okay with a different form, because often they're then broken down into L-ascorbic acid, or they are still exerting an effect. So yes, L-ascorbic acid is the original; it's the most powerful one.
Yeah.
Other ones still work.
Okay, that's great. Obviously with the amount of TikTok trends that there are, do you think that there's anywhere that people go specifically wrong, or are they just buying into the hype because it's got thousands of views, thousands of likes, so people think, if loads of people are liking it, then it must be good?
I think the place people go wrong is not understanding their own skin and their own skin's needs. So we talked about slugging.
Yeah.
If somebody with acne-prone skin tries to slug, they're going to get spots. If somebody with rosacea tries to use a load of chemical exfoliants, they're going to get sensitivity and more broken blood vessels. So it's about knowing your skin, what it needs, and is that trend going to suit you. Some of the trends are quite good.
Yeah.
Some of them are
not so good.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I mean, look, at the end of the day, not everyone is a skincare expert. This is the whole thing. And when you see something online, you try it, because I think as well, if you've got problematic skin, such as acne, a lot of the times it's a case of, I'll try anything just to make sure it goes away. But a lot of the times when you try so many different things, that's actually aggravating the skin.
Yeah.
Whereas I think you need to stick to something you've been recommended by a professional, stick to that for a period of time. Don't just use it for 3 days and then, nothing's really changed. You need to really stick to it, but you do need to seek professional, advice for that.
Yeah, you do really. I mean, and on that note, you have to be consistent with skincare. So your skin cell turnover, you're looking at 8 to 12 weeks. So don't expect to see any particular change until you've got through that time period.
Yeah, exactly. So you currently practice at a fantastic clinic in Knightsbridge. So tell us about where you practice and the types of patients you kind of see on a regular basis. And also if patients are now looking for more natural, enhanced results.
So I'm based at the Taktuk Clinic. I'm very lucky. I work alongside Dr. Wasim Taktuk and Professor Faraz Al-Niami, who is a professor of dermatology, specifically lasers. We are a small team, but we are able to provide most things. We also have Dr. Pam Benito, who is off at the moment. She's just had a baby, but she also does threads. So small but strong little army of people. Yes, we're based in Knightsbridge. We have a really, really lovely group of patients. The majority of patients are aged 40 and above, I would say. We have a few younger people coming in. The focus and our kind of forte is around really natural results, keeping people undetectably young looking. So our goal is that somebody will say to you, you look really well, or you look like you've slept well, but nobody should say, what have you had done?
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's just how we practice. That's not for everybody, but I think as a clinic, that reputation goes round, because people will leave and they'll say, if you want something natural, you go there. So we attract patients that want the same thing. And actually, I think there has been a real shift towards people wanting a natural result. And as a result, we've got much busier. We are seeing a little bit more in the way of people coming from elsewhere wanting dissolving done because they want more natural results. I think there has been a shift. And I think lockdown again was part of that. So the other shift that I've seen is that people want good skin. They are wearing less makeup. So they are coming in wanting things to make their skin glow. They want biostimulants, not fillers. A bit of a change, more preventative.
Exactly. And that's why we're going to see over the next 2 to 5 years, everyone will be glowing and they'll look natural, but they'll look as good as they can for the age that they are. Is there any specific treatment that you offer in clinic that you're like, wow, that has been a massive, massive game changer for your patients, and they leave and it's kind of like the one treatment you pick and it's a real confidence, boost for people?
So everyone has their preference, right? I'm all about skin. So for me, if you can get your skin looking really good, people don't notice other things that are going on. So skin boosters and Skin Pen, so microneedling.
I love Skin Pen.
Skin Pen is a really good one.
Yes, I love it.
But it takes time.
It does, but I've honestly, so I'm getting married in July, and it's been one of my go-to treatments to have. Obviously, you can't do it like a couple days or even like a week, but I wouldn't recommend to do that before your actual wedding. But I've been doing it like months in advance because it makes such a big difference to your skin.
It makes a huge difference. And what's great about it is it doesn't change your expression, doesn't change the volume in your face. But what it will do is stimulate collagen. It will smooth fine lines and wrinkles. Pores will look a bit smaller. Certain forms of pigmentation, it's going to help. If you've got scarring, it's going to help with that scarring. But as we say, it's not a quick fix because collagen stimulation takes a few months. So you are looking, your final result will be 3 months post your final treatment. But the improvement in texture and glow, that comes pretty quick.
Straight away, doesn't it? But yeah, I think depending on obviously your skin, I think they recommend maybe between 4 to 6 treatments, like each month, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about lifestyle. So how much, I've been reading a lot at the moment about, for example, if you're a vegan, you're sometimes, unless you supplement, your body lacks nutrients that you would get from eating a non-vegan diet. How important is what you eat, and how does that reflect on the skin so much?
So it is really important. And interestingly, talking about Korea, they have kind of come to this, so that they have a type of skin now which is called sokgwang, which means lit from within. And that's about incorporating diet, water and everything into your skincare routine. It is important in certain conditions, I think, but also I am quite lenient, I would say. I'm a believer in everything in moderation. I don't like exclusivity diets. So unless you are, intolerant or allergic to dairy products, it's not nice to have to cut them out completely. It has other problems later on in life. You're going to be more prone to developing osteoporosis and things like that. Your food groups are there for a reason, but it is important. And we know, for example, in the North Pole where they don't have, and in certain areas of the world where there isn't things like chocolate and things like that, and their diet is very high in fish, acne is not even a condition. So it shows that there is a huge emphasis of diet, but quite often in my patients with problematic skin, we have managed to resolve their skin concerns without prescription medication and without having to change their diet, just by changing up their routine. That doesn't happen always, but it's possible.
And even things like, for example, something simple like reducing the sugar intake that you have, because sugar can lead to a hell of a lot of aging problems. So reduce refined sugars basically in your routine.
No, to be fair, a lot of sugar is bad in many ways, but again, a little bit here and there
is I mean, look,
nice,
it's like eat dark chocolate, don't eat like milk chocolate, for example. Like have, just make mindful decisions basically. So if you had 60 seconds and £60 in a Korean beauty store, what would you grab for glowing skin? Is there anything specifically you'd grab?
So genuinely, I'm really loving that Belif Aqua Bomb. Very new to the UK. Really nice now it's hot. So I'd grab another pot of that. And I would probably pick up, there is something called VT Riedel Shot. It is microspicules. So this is the kind of liquid microneedling that really went viral in Korea last year.
Amazing.
It works.
And you can buy that now in the UK? Or
there are certain Korean beauty stores where you can definitely buy it. There's one that I go to quite often called Glam Touch. There's one called Pure Soul, one called Moida.
Wow.
There's quite a few. You can definitely get it online.
Yes.
Not in Boots. It's amazing how many of these brands are now in Boots.
And so something like that, how would you apply that? Is that something you do daily, weekly?
So it's interesting. So there's a whole range. And they are numbered, and the number corresponds to how concentrated the number of spicules is. Now, if you get the lowest one, you can use it every single day. You use it quite early on in your routine, because the idea is that these tiny microspicules that are made from sponge penetrate through the skin and create these little pores, so that anything you put onto your skin afterwards goes down into those channels. So the idea is it improves the rest of your skincare. So you've got the very basic one that you can use every day, all the way up to ones that you would only want to use maybe a couple of times a week. And it does feel for the higher concentration ones, you can feel it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to try that.
You need to try
I'm definitely going to try that. So we mentioned, well, we haven't really touched upon this, snails. So there's been a lot of viral videos around obviously putting like snails on your face. What's your opinion on that? Actual snails. Have you not seen this? Where you're right, okay, it's like it's a snail like facial where they're lying there and they've got maybe, I don't know, 40, 50 snails like on their face. And it's like it comes up quite often and I'm just like, why would you want to do that? That's like
Is this on TikTok?
TikTok or Instagram, one of them, like that's absolutely, imagine the smell. It's just
a snail smell.
I don't want them being that close to my face to be able to like
I actually haven't
tell.
seen this, but I guess it's derived from the whole snail mucin
That's exactly
trend that went round. Snail mucin's an interesting one. So as a doctor, we have to base everything on medical evidence. There is no evidence medically that snail mucin does anything. However, I have tried it. It did help my skin. It gives you a bit of a glow.
Yeah.
It's not something I use every day because it didn't help me that much, but some people absolutely swear by it.
Okay.
It's not causing any harm in that form. I'm not sure about the fresh snail situation.
I mean, I think maybe it's at its purest form or something like that. They're like live snails.
But I wonder whether or not there's any, I mean, I don't know. There may be there's going to be other things in there.
I don't feel like being a test for that. Like, I don't think you do either.
No.
So I think, park that to one side. Exactly. Yeah. So just to round up, we're going to have a quick fire round.
Okay.
So double cleanse always or just after wearing makeup?
Always.
Okay. Your skincare guilty pleasure?
Ooh. Probably an injectable, probably a skin booster if I'm honest.
Okay. And is there one product that you would take to a desert island?
SPF.
Okay. And finally, what is one truth that you'd like everybody listening to remember about their skin?
Everyone's skin is different. Try to get to know your skin and don't be tempted to try everything. If you have got a routine that works, stick to it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for such an inspiring conversation. I think you've definitely helped us to see that skincare doesn't have to be boring, but it has to be effective as well. So to our listeners, please follow Christine. She'll be tagged in the description, and make sure you visit her for a consultation. And remember, real skin is radiant and it comes from within. So thank you everyone for listening, and make sure to subscribe.